Yeah, got myself a little cleaned up today. Got here a little late too. I keep forgetting what time it is. Like, it just sneaks up on me and I just don't see it coming. Um, Part of it was like I did so much last night updating for the Captain Marvel preview, or the review, not preview. That video took maybe an hour and 10 minutes. There was dealing a little bit with the clunkiness of my new intro and outro stuff. Like, I recorded that before I edited and posted the book review that I did before it for Cuckoo's Egg. So when I recorded it, I did my outro saying you can check for other videos over here. And when I did the edit for the book review, I found that the spacing of that statement at the end, the cards that lead to the other playlists, don't work for a certain time frame. And so I had to change the order of how I said that in the video, but I'd already recorded it. So it took me probably an extra half an hour to get that organized right. So I did that, and it probably could have been a faster edit if I got things more streamlined. But the problem was, I think the review probably, like, the whole length of the video was like 35 minutes, which is longer than I usually want them to be by half. So usually I want them to be about 15 minutes long. But I had a lot to say on that one. And so as I said it, the review ran long enough that when I export the file from my video editor to a format I can upload, it took 2.5 hours to export it. And once it was exported, it took another 2 hours to upload it to YouTube. And it was just sort of like, I didn't finish uploading that until sometime around, like, I feel like it was almost 1 a.m. when it finished uploading. And then started to try to get ready to do some more editing and video stuff. But the absolute strain and stress of doing all that made my computer say, like, oh, you've worked us hard for 5 hours. We're not going to cooperate for a little bit. And I got so angry and so frustrated. I just called it quits and went to bed last night. And then when I got up earlier today, like, I went to bed around like 5 a.m. after a serious amount of effort to try to get some things done. And I woke up around noon and started to try to proceed to work more on the computer today. And it took an hour to get this computer to cooperate with me. And so it just blew my streak of work out of the water. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why, and like, I've had times where I've uploaded videos for YouTube in which the upload from here to YouTube for a 10-minute video has sometimes been done literally in 10 minutes. Sometimes less. I've had a few videos that have actually gone up, and I'm posting it to YouTube, and the video goes up like that. Like, I'm like, oh, I was gonna go do something, but I guess we're done. I've been surprised by it in the past, but I don't think I've ever had a 2.5 hour upload before. And so that one caught me completely off guard. Like, the video editing took about an hour and a half. The export from the video editor as from a file for the editor to play with over to a MP4, which is the format that is recommended for upload to YouTube, the MP4, like the switch from editor file to MP4, took 2.5 hours. And then it was like 2 hours, hour and a half, somewhere in that range, to get it up on YouTube. And I think the only other time I've had, and I have to go back and look at it, I have to put the end card on it anyway, but I have to go back and look. The only other time I've had an issue like that before was when I did an edit on a file and I had clipped out sections of it and moved them all the way to like 10 minutes after the end of the video so that I could work on the part of the video that was the most important and decide if I wanted to take pieces off of the clip that I pulled out and insert them as openers or segues or anything like that in the video. Only I forgot I had done that. So what I ended up having was a 20-minute video with a 10-minute space followed by 7 minutes of additional content way out past the end. And so at the end of the video, there's this black space for 10 minutes followed by additional video content that I didn't intend to be there. And so it made the video like a 40-minute long video in the long run. And the longer the video is, of course, the longer it takes to export. But the more tracks there are and the more layers there are involved in the process, the more data it has to convert to an MP4. And so it really made, I started the process of editing it or exporting it at one point, and I walked away and I came back and it said, yeah, 5.5 hours until this is done. And I'm like, what? So I stopped it and I tried to go back and figure out why it was doing that. And it turned out because I had left a sliver way off to the side. I don't think that's what I did this time, but I'm going to go back into the, I might use the YouTube editor to see if there's any long end on it. Yeah, well, that's the poster board. Yep, that's the plan. It's the fluorescent green poster board. I have two poster board pieces that might be enough for some of this wall, but I don't think it would cover all of it. This gets a pretty wide angle on this. So I may go out and buy 2 more sheets of it. And I'm not sure, I might even go out and buy 3 more sheets of it, or 4 more sheets of it. Because I think 3x2 grid of it in the back would work possibly for any space that I would cover in this wide field view. And I'm trying to decide how fixed I want the position of it to be. Because I'm debating whether or not I want to be able to fold it up and take it somewhere. If I need to do that, I may not tape the seams as thoroughly. I may just make anchor points at the corners. But I'm still deciding how I want to arrange that and how I want to fix it to the wall here. Because I can turn the angle a little bit on the camera so it's not in this corner. But I'm not sure, because this isn't my place. I don't live here. And so I can't nail it to the wall without potentially causing problems. Yeah, lighting is key to getting that right. Usually what you want is either an overhead down onto the screen behind the actor, or on the floor pointing up behind the actor. And there's the lighting situation for doing good quality lighting for both photography and video is there's a type called 3-point lighting, which is you can do you do like two lights from the front, sort of like a main light and a fill light, so you can get the main light coming in at you, give you your base light levels, and a fill light decreases some of the sharp shadows that the main light can cast. And then usually what you have is like a crown light, a light directly above that kind of hits you a little bit from behind to make you pop out from the backdrop a little bit. And if you do it right, a light above you that functions as both the crown light, the one above the actor, and illuminates the backdrop, would make a green screen functional while also making the actor stand out from it, right? Because the light from the back causes more contrast from the background. Yeah. When I get into projects, sometimes I forget what day I'm on. Like, I was up till 6 a.m. last night. I woke up at noon, so I basically went to bed and woke up on the same day. I don't know what day I'm on. I'm pretty sure. I think this is Thursday. Yes, it's Thursday. And I have had a few occasions where I'm up and I'm working on something for over 24 hours. Then I go to bed and wake up on the same day I went to bed. Like, I have no idea what day it is. It's a problem I'm somewhat notorious for. If I'm not scheduled for a certain set of shifts on a regular basis at the job I'm working, then I have no way of knowing what day it is. Like, you tell me I need to be at work today, I'll show up at work today, and then tomorrow, like at the end of my shift, you say, I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. That means that roughly sometime between I've left work and when I go to work next, I will sleep for a period of time and I will wake up, get ready, and go to work. I don't know if it's Thursday or Saturday. That's irrelevant to me. Do I work today or not is usually what I do. And if I'm working today, what time? Set my alarm for that time on the coming day. And that's all I know. That's really all I know. I am notoriously bad at keeping track of what day and sometimes even what time it is. Like, I have no idea. Like, if it's important for what I'm doing at the time, like a deadline that I have to meet, then I'll know it. But for the most part, I won't know it. So I'm usually pretty good with these videos because I try to keep track of, like, each week starts on a Sunday, and each phase of the project I'm working on goes up on a specific day. I'll know what I've achieved in the last 24 hours. But sometimes when a project's all over the place, like the most recent set of projects, I lose track. I just don't know. It doesn't seem relevant or important to me half the time. Like, it's Thursday. I've got till Saturday to get my prototype built, and then potentially refine that over the subsequent week. That's all I can really think about for this week, is that and a few other little projects that I'm working on and try to get stuff done, and having to plan what I'm going to do for my travel. And I may have to rebuild some of my travel plans just because I don't know how much I'm going to be able to get to work out. We'll see. But yeah, ideally what I'd like to be able to pull off is, like, the green screen back here would be fun. I feel like what I'll probably end up doing is just securing the corners of 4 to 6 sheets together to form a colored wall, and then using essentially loops of tape, make hangers that I can put on a shower curtain rod that I can secure. Because right over here is a cupboard for dishes for the owner of the property. And right here is the wall. And if I can get a shower curtain rod that'll span that distance, and it's about the distance of a bathtub, so there should be a rod that I could get to fit that distance. I could set it up between the side of this cupboard and this wall, hang the green screen from it, and on the corner over here, put a shop light that would illuminate the green screen and crown light me. And then I can work on doing some soft lighting from that side that illuminates me well enough that I stand out enough from the screen that I can change the green screen in the back. Now, because it's 6 individual poster boards, there may be visible seams along the edges, but for most of what I'm going to be doing, that's fine, because most of what I'll be doing on that green screen is going to be yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, that it's part of why like the poster board makes the most sense, because I can make that green screen for probably about $5 to $6, and I can move it to whatever location I'm going to, especially if I can figure out a stand that doesn't require 2 adjacent walls to connect to. Because I could run wherever I end up doing 2 S hooks uh, secured to walls and run a clothesline from it. I could hang a hangable green screen from it anywhere. And just like 2 little hooks in the wall would be like hanging pictures on a nail. It wouldn't be super hard. So it makes a portable, simple one that you can take anywhere. The poster board, the biggest issue with poster board is the seams between the panels, and the poster board color tends to fade with a lot of light exposure over long periods of time, but it's still going to be bright enough green that I could make it last for years if I wanted to. So on top of that, that's really just the seams between the panels. And I have yet to try a full set of panels like that yet, but if it's at least serviceable, I'm okay with that. That's not a huge deal. And hanging it sturdily from wherever I'm at, that's my only hurdle, I think, at that point, and lighting it right. But yeah, so I'm curious to see what I can make work for that. And I feel like I could make some pretty cheap lighting rigs that would work. Basically what you want is like one of those can lights, and I'm pretty sure if I could go to a thrift store or two, I could probably find some simple lamps that I can disassemble, get the lighting fixture for, build arms out of like popsicle sticks or wooden dowels, and the directional the reflector can be built out of like cardboard with tinfoil or other semi-reflective surface. And if you want to put a diffuser over the surface of it, like a light box, all you really need is a piece of parchment paper, and that's cheap as all get out. So like I can build a lighting rig for the front of me really easily. Building the one that goes above the green screen might be the harder part. Yeah, umbrella flash units are fairly nice. Diffusers are, like I said, you can do that with parchment paper or even wax paper or tracing paper. Parchment paper is a preferred one because if you're using high power lighting, the bulbs can get hot enough that like a tracing paper might start to yellow, and a wax paper might start to get soft. But like the lighting rigs and stuff that you see a lot of people use, it's like $130 for a whole rig from Amazon. And I'm like, I don't know why people are spending that. Like, honestly, for most of my needs, what we've got going here works. If I could do a crown light with a green screen behind me without doing front lights other than like the house light in front of me, like the picture for the intro for this video, like the thumbnail for this, is I had not turned that light on over there, and this light above me is the one that makes me look washed out. So I had just turned that one off, but not turned that one on yet. So it's much darker in here. But with that one on, it's not a powerful light. That's on the other side of the room, and it's like a 60-watt bulb. And this is about the right light balance, I think, for what I prefer. And I'm not getting a lot of harsh shadows. We get a shadow behind me, but with a can light behind me hitting back here, it might illuminate enough of the backspace to eliminate a lot of that. The only concern I have with the light behind me is whether or not it makes it so bright back here that the camera adjusts the light levels up front here to make it too dark. So I got to play with that a little bit. And then like I'm trying to figure out like the right way to do, because I think what I want to do in the long run for some of these live videos, but most of my edited videos, is have like the edited videos, the green screen behind me, and insert like I need to lay out, like for the taste test ones, I would lay out like this and maybe like this, and just do like a tiling pattern of a bunch of these things in the background for the taste tests that I've done. And then so like behind me while I'm talking about food and taste tests, there's like 30 different things that I've taste tested in the past. And I can then do an insert of what I'm doing this week, and do the same thing for DVD covers and book covers, board game boxes, and maybe music covers, album covers, and video game art. I might even, if I could get away with it, that's the real trick. If I could get away with it, I might have in the background of video game ones basically a scene of the video game, like freeze framed, and do that for maybe each of the games. I might be able to get away with that with movies. I'm not sure. I could do it with artworks where I could have the artwork behind me. Like, I don't know if I could cut movie scenes as still images without maybe editing them or tweaking them so that they're not necessarily violating the owner rights. I have to be careful with that. Products and services are going to, again, be the tricky category for doing that with, because they're not usually something, they're not always something that's easy to frame as a tile pattern. So like the products I've done so far are like a thermos, a pair of sneakers. I've done a couple of services like websites where I could maybe do a web page. What else have I done? I've done a fair number of them, and they're not like, maybe I could find the box for them and use them as still images. I'm not sure. It's always a little tricky to figure out how to make that category make more sense. And it's weird because that's the category that gets the most views. And it's because people want to, see a review of a product to see if they want to buy it or not. I don't know that I've reached an audience with the movies or the books as much, but I mean, I haven't tried a lot. People who are interested in a book don't always search for it on YouTube, but people who are questioning whether or not a product is something they want to purchase, or are looking for ideas for the right brand of earphones or shoes, they're more likely to do a search for like a YouTube video of somebody talking about or showing off the object. A book, not so much. Probably not a movie either. Although you do get like the previews of movies that people watch reviews of, or reactions to. So I mean, but yeah, the green screen in the back and tiling it with images of the objects the video is made about is sort of what I want to do. And I have to try to figure out how to do a lower third. So like if you come into a book review or a movie review, you can see underneath me, it'll tell you what movie, what book. And I feel like I know the way I do the reviews isn't the way that they are normally done. Most people will do like an in-depth review. I do a shorter summary review most times, and then I use them to generate the prompts for more ideas to make new things with. So the lead up to the rating and the review, people are maybe there for the rating and review portion of it and not for the rest of it. And so like my analytics tell me that view time on like the Captain Marvel, there's 7 views on it, and of those views, I think it's a 35-minute video, which is longer than I would like anyway, but about 25 minutes of that is watched. And I can almost guarantee you that last 10 minutes is the writing prompts that I did based off of it. And that's fine. If you're there for a quick review and my thoughts on a movie, that's cool too. I want to be able to set it up so that I can distinguish between those categories. So like I know when I watch a top 10 video, I hate a top 10 video where you look at the timeline of the video and it's 12 minutes long, and the first 3 minutes are some rambling intro, and then like the person can't concisely compact each of their 10 points. So like they'll start you in on point 10 or you know the top 10, number 10 will be a long ramble, and there's a part of me is like, okay, I've got your idea of what 10 is to you. Can I go to 9? But I can scroll along that timeline, and at no point along that timeline can I find the breaks for each one. And I would prefer to do mine in a way that if you came to see a rating and a review, that you can look at my video timeline, and as you scroll along it, the little pop-up window that shows you different points along the video, like if you're going along there and you see like, okay, here's the rating, I want to put a logo or something along the bottom, this is the review portion of it, you can jump to that point. And if you're there for the writing prompts or the creative prompts, here's number 1, here's number 2, here's number 3, here's number 4, here's number 5, here's number 6. And if you want to just get the summary of each first and just go with it, go for it. And I want to make that easier for the viewers to get, because I don't want to necessarily make 35-minute long reviews. And I've thought about doing that. That actually turns out to be more work, tracking down the different time points in the video. But if I can do a green screen setup where I can do like the tile pattern of past movies behind me, and then do like a logo that I just drop in every time I do a video. This is the rate section, this is the review section, this is the prompts section, and then have between each prompt, I used to do, when I was using a cheaper video editor, I used to do a split with a 3 to 5 second pause, and it would say number 1. And I felt that made it easier to find those points being made. And I want to kind of do something like that with better graphics this time. So it's sort of like I'd say, okay, so let's get into the creative prompts, starting with, and then it would cut to a big number 1, and then cut back to me, and I would give number 1, and then it would cut to a big number 2, and then it would cut back to me. And that's actually really easy to do if you can build the giant number 1 through 6 as I think if you did 3 seconds per, 3 to 4 seconds per number, it's, my math is off today. 6 times 3. It's 18. So it's about 18 seconds of footage to do the big numbers. And you just keep that as a video file on your desktop. And if you add, say, 3 seconds for the header for the rating and review section, then honestly, at that point, you can just load that as a second video clip into your editor, cut it at each section, and haul each of those pieces over into the section of your video where you cut it, drop them in, tighten it up, export, and you're good to go. Whereas you have to watch your video for the playthrough for the exact timestamp of each section to load it into the descriptions underneath. And the trick with that is, like, the timestamps in your video editor are not the same timestamps that are on YouTube. So you edit the video all the way through, you upload it to YouTube, you add your end cards, you add your any starter intros that you do on your video through the YouTube web page. And then you go through and you watch it once it's uploaded already, and then you add the timestamps underneath. And I think that's cumbersome. Whereas, I mean, maybe it's something worth pursuing. I feel like I have seen, especially for longer videos, like these would be nice to be able to do that with, where like I occasionally watch Tested, which is Adam Savage and his crew, and some of their videos, especially their I think it's like a weekly program that they do, and it's like 2 hours long, and they cover like 12 to 15 topics in that episode. Like, I prefer to have that timestamp stuff underneath, because 3/4 of what they talk about isn't something I'm necessarily there for, but occasionally they have a thing that I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to see what that is. Jump to that point. I don't know that most of my edited videos will be like that, but I do think some of these live ones could benefit from that. But I don't have any structure on what I do with these. So it's not like, if you were to look at tonight's video, we talked about green screens and lighting setups and formatting for loading to a YouTube video for accessing different points. But I've jumped back to green screen halfway through the lighting rig, and I'm talking about something else now. So it's a little all over the place. It's not as cleanly divided. So it's a little harder to do that. These are just ramble videos. That's just seems to be what I'm doing with them. So they're ramble videos. And that's okay. I mean, there are a couple YouTubers I like to watch some of their rambling series on. They don't usually run as long as I do, though. I don't think there's a huge audience for me rambling for an hour. And so I have to be more careful about that. But yeah, so battle plan going forth here is try to finish up this week. Like, I forget what day today is, the 25th. So I think I was doing a little looking around last night, and I believe the there's a project. The Trash to Treasure Instructables contest ends in 3 or 4 days. And then like I want to try to get that one done. Sort of. It's not as high priority. It is sort of my niche of interest, but the prize isn't one that speaks to me a whole lot. And although, you know, that's just me because I'm not a money guy. I'm like the prize for that Instructable contest is $1,000 gift card for Amazon, and I'm looking at that and like, that's not as interesting to me as a prize like a 3D printer or a laser cutter, or even a stand mixer for foods. Like those are prizes that I'm kind of interested in. Although like a stand mixer might be $320 a total retail value, but $1,000 Amazon card, like my brain just says like, I want to see if I can win the mixer. Like the card, I'm like, meh. But as I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, I could buy some products to review. I could buy some stuff. Like I could buy an improved camera for like my traveling interviews, or like a good quality DSLR camera that I could use for film outdoor scenes that would make it possible for me to do like the Star Wars remake idea that I want to do. Like it'd be a better quality camera than anything I currently have access to, and I could get like 4K video with it, which would allow me to do things in editing that I can't really do with what I currently have. Not that I need to. Please don't go in that direction. But like just the idea of being able to do some things that I can't currently do, or maybe I could invest in like, I actually was looking at there are a couple movies that were produced on iPhones with some certain software, and it's like because the iPhones have like the ability with a lens adapter kit that you can clip onto the back of an iPhone, and with some software that changed the frame rate and aspects of the video by changing the color correction. 2 or 3 movies have been shot on iPhones that are professional grade movies. And so the idea of potentially having an iPhone or something like it that I could tweak to get like 4K style video through an editor to get a professional style movie, while also potentially using it as a hotspot. And like an iPhone, some of those iPhones are like $1,000 or less. And so like a $1,000 gift card on Amazon, I could get one. But for some reason, just telling me that I could get $1,000 gift card isn't as enticing as, you know, you could get a stand mixer or a food processor that's $200 to $300 in value. Like my brain wants those things. Well, yeah, and Apple prices have always been pretty high. My family used to run a printing business, and they used a lot of Apple stuff specifically because Apple was good at doing those kinds of things. Now, hiding flaws with the DSLR, I like the thing about getting a 4K video is like I got some spots on my face today. I did a shave and I probably nicked myself a couple times or something like that. I don't know what that one's from. That might just be uh, rawness on skincare. But I mean, they're showing up a little bit right now on a 4K video. Yeah, they'd show up a little bit more. But the trick with the reason for using like a 4K video is there's some scenes in movies where the actual footage that you see in the finished product is 1080, but they started with a 4K video, and they use that 4K video to make the scene move in ways that the 1080 wouldn't. And that's, you can always, my point was that you can always downgrade 4K video to a 780, a 720, or a 1080, but you can't make 720 as good as a 1080 video. And when you're using a 4K video, you can always crop the important parts of the video to fit what you need. So like you can get a 4K video of somebody in a scene, and you can zoom in from a distance out. Like if you have to shoot from a certain elevation down at a certain angle, but there's no way to get a good optical zoom from that height, if you're shooting at 4K, but you're cropping to a 720 or an 1080, you can start with your full 4K picture degraded to a 1080 resolution. But as you zoom in, each of those zoomed in frames is a 1080p. So you zoom from 4K to 1080 dimensions, keeping the same resolution. It gives you the impression of having been able to optically zoom that distance without degradation of the 1080 quality. So there are just some editing tricks that you can do with some of that. And there's also the possibility of taking a 4K still image and zooming, or basically cropping it so that you're getting a full left-hand side of the screen 720, and then panning at 720 across this still image makes it look like you're moving across a landscape, panning your camera across a landscape, when in fact it's just a still image. It's the same image from left to right. It just looks like it's moving. And so like that's one of the tricks you can do with some of that. I mean, there are a few other like important tricks that enables. I don't know that I would ever need to do a 4K video. And honestly, like for everything that I watch on YouTube, most of the videos that I watch on YouTube are going to be I think I watched it in 450 resolution. I think that's what it is. Because it loads faster, and it gets a reasonable amount of detail for what I want to see. Like I don't need to see, like you don't need to see the pores on my skin for what I'm doing. And most of the stuff I look at, I don't need an in-depth resolution. I don't need to be able to read the serial number on a dollar bill that they pay the cash register at a store in a scene that they're doing. I don't need that resolution. You could do most of the movies that I watch in standard def, and I believe that the definitions of high definition start at 720p. So under 720p works fine. I watched every movie I did during the Marvel Cinematic Views Day night I did. Every one of those I watched in standard definition, which is under 720p. And they all looked great. I don't need more than that. And I could get away with a lot of that. And I feel like if I posted under like a standard definition under a 720p, I think it would go over fine. The trick to some of that, though, is the aspect ratio of the screen size. Because I've looked at some of my older videos on this channel. If you look at some of them, they are shot in, some of them are shot in standard def, and some of them are shot in 720, and some are shot in the 10, like these are shot on the 1080, and the frame sizes are different. If you watch some of the old ones back, they're square, and it looks weird to go back and look at those now because it's not the right shape of a window. And that's just, I think that's called the aspect ratio. And I need to learn a little bit more about adjusting those settings in the editor and the video that I upload. So shooting them in a 720 or a 1080 and then cropping them maybe to a lower resolution would be fine. I feel like I get more options potentially playing around with a 1080 to a 4K. But the other thing about it is, like, if I thought uploading a I think the video that I did the other day for the Captain Marvel movie was 720p, which is barely high def dimensions. If I thought a 35-minute video at 720p taking 2.5 hours to export from my editor was painful, oh Lord, I'll tell you, a 4K definition video of 45 minutes to 2 hours, that's going to take days to just export it. And it's going to take another day and a half just to upload it to YouTube. That's going to drive me absolutely crazy, because somewhere along that process during that day, either my computer's going to freeze up, or my internet's going to drop, or the power's going to go out, and it's going to take me weeks just to get that content uploaded to the web. And that would drive me crazy. That would drive me absolutely crazy. I don't know how I would tolerate that. And it gives me an appreciation of those YouTubers that do high def video quality of 20 to 35 minutes long, and they upload those regularly. I just can't imagine how like, you must have a dedicated machine that's on all the time with like fiber optic connection or a very high speed connection, and you must have a processor that's insane on your computer, and you must have a GPU that's just modded to be as fast as possible to process all that at a real speed. I don't have, like, that must be easily $10,000 worth of equipment to make that viable. And it must cost you at least $300 a month for your internet connection to get that kind of content up on a regular basis. And I was just like, I don't think I'll ever be working at a level like that. Not because I think it would be potentially beyond me to achieve that level, but just because that's way more work than this sounds sort of stupid, but that's way more work than I want to put into any one project. Now, the Star Wars Reimagined thing, that'll be a fun project to do, but I'm not looking to get that into a movie theater. I don't want this to be a high budget production. Like, there are some fan films out there that are good enough, and I don't need to exceed that. I don't have to do a Hollywood budget production for that kind of thing. It's not really where I want to go with that. So I was just like, I mean, just being able to achieve certain effects. Like, one of the things that, partly inspired some of that idea for me was, if you look at some of those, like, how it should have ended animations, those are fun, they don't need to be high grade, Hollywood level productions. The story is the thing there. Not, I mean, the graphics they do and the animators they get to do that, they're kind of neat too. But I don't need that level of production. But one of the other things with the newer idea of how to approach that with some puppetry and makeup and whatnot, there are some people out there. There's some young makeup artists out there that do these amazing. They're not like makeup tutorials, but they're sort of like bragging rights special effects makeup, where you can see usually a young woman in front of a makeup camera, where she's applying layers of makeup in sped up time, and as she goes through it, you see the layers and the effort that goes into this. And at the end of this, must be like 3 hours of makeup routine, you get like a body paint effect, like Venom from Marvel Comics, where her closed mouth looks like an open maw full of fangs, and it's painted in a way to look really realistic that you can believe it. Or some of those effects where like people did face makeup where it looks like there's a zipper that's unzipping to the gristle underneath the skin, and it's just like some weird technical effects that they've achieved with their makeup. And I love how neat some of that is. And as a fan of the original Star Wars movies, where they take where they had a shoestring budget and they took latex masks and puppets and miniature sculptures, some stop motion animation, and really simple effects to achieve these things. I think, like, I have an appreciation for that I sort of want to dabble in playing with some of that. Like, I could probably do pretty good at making a lot of the miniature sets and everything pretty well. The puppetry might be a new trick I have to learn how to do, but I have a lot of friends in the prop and costuming hobbies that I can get some tips from, and I know some tips already. And seeing how far I can improve my skills in those areas would be fun. And then like that makeup, the tricks. I know some tricks already, but to take it to the next level enough to be able to play characters, even if it looks like something that was shot in the 70s for TV, I'm okay with that end quality. I just want to play with it. But yeah, I mean, I also debate whether or not I want to do some tweaks to the styling. Like, just do some experiments. And that would be half the fun for me is, if you've ever seen the movie Sin City or Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, I think there was one with Samuel L. Jackson, like The Spirit. And then there's like 300, the Spartans movie. And I think there are a few others like that. That style is done through a lot of layering and techniques to tweak the images in a certain way. I think that would be fun to do. The recent Marvel movie of Into the Spider-Verse, that uses a certain sort of style filter that they put over the animation that they did. And like, if I could figure out how to do some of those effects, maybe not go directly for that look, I would love to play with that. I think there's a movie called, it's a Keanu Reeves movie called Through a Scanner Darkly. It's a Philip K. Dick science fiction story converted over into a movie. And the style of that movie is, again, a different style of altering the images of a live action movie interaction into a new format. And all of those are potential ways to give a new look and feel to the visuals of a movie. I kind of want to play with some of those. And, I don't know what approach I would settle on for the Star Wars movies. I feel like the Star Wars movies benefit from doing a very live action style of image. But if I end up doing this for other things, like if I redo key scenes and narration for Iron Man 3, or if I redo scenes from, like if I reimagine like the Justice League movie, or if I reimagine like my idea of doing the Batman superhero stories, and reimagine the characters and the settings and the, whatever I do with that stuff, I may want to tweak those looks for a distinctive look. I may not want to do it live action looking. Like if I could do a like a Sin City look to a Batman themed fan film, I think that would be kind of neat. Or a Spider-Verse approach to it, or a through a scanner darkly look. Those all have potential. Uh, I'm I'm trying to figure out how I want to approach that, because the sound in Star Wars is one of the more amazing aspects of that universe. And like it's old enough now that you can actually find out like, oh, what's the sound effect they used to make Chewbacca's voice? Like you could track down those things and mix your own version of that. But there are also enough people who have a lot of like fun. Like there are some viral videos out there, like Vine videos, where somebody moved a bar stool across their kitchen floor and it makes a sound just like Chewbacca, where you can figure out ways to copy that sound from other sources. And like I believe the T-Rex in Jurassic Park is partly a reworked sound from a young elephant scared of being left behind by its mother calling out. But there are other sounds that produce a close enough approximation that people have had a lot of fun with memes, where you see somebody opening a door to a kitchen and it makes this sound, and they overlay it to a picture of the screaming T-Rex and it seems to work just fine. Like I kind of want to go around and just snag sounds from the environment to get the sounds that I need to achieve the effects I need. And if they're not 100% accurate to the movies, I kind of like that they're my own version of those sounds. I got to figure out like how to do some of them. Like I know if I play around with like the CD drive, if I play around with the CD drive on my laptop, when I push the button, it makes this little beep noise before it spits out the drive for me to put a DVD in. And if I take that sound and stretch it out, I can get some interesting electronical noises. If you speed up or slow down like a seatbelt chime in a car, like 3 different models of cars have 3 different types of seatbelt reminders. If you take those sounds and speed them up or slow them down, stretch them or cut off high notes or low notes in the sound effects, you can get probably 8 or 9 different beeping electronic sounds that you can use in different ways. And if you really tweak those sounds, you can actually get things like the sounds for speeders moving across desert terrain. Like you can get a whole bunch of fun noises that way. And I think that would be half the fun of doing that. Like if I do a series of videos where I do a Star Wars reimagined as a serial, 10 to 20-minute episodes on a regular basis, I may not be able to fund the episodes, the stories, the characters, and any of those things, but a behind the scenes of how I made the sounds or the visual effects that I did, I might be able to monetize a series like that. And so, like, that may be able to be what I do to end up funding some of those projects. And honestly, just experimenting with that would be fun. The visuals and the audio tinkering for those are just, they're on my mind as the fun part of doing that. Like, even talking about it right now, I'm like, okay, bye. And I want to go spend like the next 2 hours researching some of the visuals and audio effects for these things. Like, it just, I'm fascinated by it. And I kind of want to take some of my creative projects on this channel in that direction, where it's not so much about whether or not I get a big audience or supporters on Patreon or however any of it's funded. It's more like, here's a weird and fun project I wanted to try my hand at, and this is just me playing at it. Like, that's what I want to do. And I want to encourage other people to do that kind of stuff, show them how I do what I do so they can do what they do, and we can share ideas and tips back and forth. Because that's half the fun of making props and costumes with some of my friends, is like, I genuinely love to see somebody's interpretation of, like, I've seen people who have taken characters from good franchises of video games and movies and comics, and they gender bend them. And like, how do you get a female Cyclops to look good? And the different interpretations of how you translate that over, or like, what does a male Jean Grey look like, or a male Emma Frost? Like, what is your interpretation of that? And everybody has their own spin on it. That's so interesting to me that, like, I don't care if it ever happens in the comics. I don't know if it's ever considered canon for anybody anywhere. Like, they did a couple of comic mix-ups where they combined different Marvel characters into one, and one of them was like, they combined Wolverine and Emma Frost. And Emma Frost has her empathy powers, and she could turn to diamond. And Wolverine has his healing factor and his adamantium skeleton. And so when they combined them, instead of a blonde girl in essentially lingerie as a villainess, it was just Wolverine in a white suit, because she wore white, he wore white. And instead of adamantium claws, he had diamond claws. And that was really like the combination they went with for that one. There are like three dozen other ways that you can make that combination. Could you give her the ability to turn to adamantium? Or could you give her claws and a healing factor on top of her empathy? Like, there are ways you can tweak this, and there are dozens of them. And I love that stuff. I mean, that's sort of what my channel's built on, is imagining the alternatives of ways you could take stories in directions that haven't been explored yet. And some of that is down to seeing the story ideas, the character ideas, the setting ideas, the whole new directions for creative approach. But some of it's also just playing with the costuming, the props, the arts, the set, the music, the sound, just playing with them and being creative. And that's half the fun for me. Even if nobody else likes what I do, if I have fun doing it, that's fine. That's what I'm here for. I would like other people to take pleasure in what I make, but you know, it's a creative endeavor. It's why I do the weekly projects, where like, I've wanted to create a product. So this week I'm going to play around with making a backpack. I made a puzzle 3 months ago. I like writing stories, so I'm going to continue writing my short stories. The board games that I built a week ago, like those, I'm so infatuated with the Captain Rita Ray Gun concept that the two games that I basically have figured out all the mechanics and would prefer to figure out a good quality artwork for them. I was playing around. There's a guy, I think I mentioned before, who does that retro art style with his computer graphics. I want to contact him and see if he wants to do at least cover art for the card game. But last night, I think at one point while I was waiting for the video to upload, I happened to wander over and like YouTube starts to recognize some of the things that I view on a regular basis. It sometimes gives me crappy recommendations, but every now and then a gem drops in my lap. And last night there was one where a guy was showing how to use Photoshop to recreate like the bomber nose art of pinup art from like World War II. And the tutorial was how to take a photograph of a human being in a pose and an outfit and a look that you like and convert it over to look like a oil painting bomber art. And the effect was just amazing. And he did it in about a half an hour worth of work. And I'm like, oh, I need a 4K camera and I need to contact a modeling agency and I need to contact, at least 4 or 5 different models for different characters that I could probably do for the Rita Raygun universe. And I need to get them to get into poses. And then I need to learn how to do this tactic that he used to make the pinup art so that I can get that same finished look. And I was like, oh, this could be so amazing. I could do some amazing stuff with this. Now, it would work for model photography. I don't know how well it would work for landscape, because I could build a little model landscape of like a rocket on the surface of Mars or something and take a photograph of that and see if I could tweak it in the same way. I don't know if it would work as well, but I could give it a try. I may have to do a different style for backgrounds, but the pinup art for the characters, I think that would be a fun way to do it. I still want to contact the guy who does the old retro art style. It's different from where I'm going with it, but that's okay. Like, I want to encourage that art style too, and maybe learn a little about how that's done. I could do other things with that. And so it's just like, I just want to kind of explore and figure some things out, because it's a new art medium to play with. And I'm rambling, and I sort of lost where we were going with that. And we're at 1 hour and 7 minutes. So as much as I really didn't cover much about where I am on the backpack, that's fine. I didn't get a lot done in the last few days, but I will have to come back tomorrow. So I have something to talk about tomorrow too. Like that's ever been a problem for me. I always have something to talk about. I think I put it in one of my saved video files. Let's see if I can pull that up. Go over to YouTube. I might post the link here right now. Let's see, YouTube. Yeah, when I'm live streaming, my ability to load things runs a little slow. Come on, please don't open a video and play it while I'm doing this so that I get it pinged because of the audio. I really don't want to deal with that fight. Actually, I think I found out the other day that may not be as big a problem for me because I don't monetize any of my videos. Oh. Let's see. Okay, so let me get this, see if I can get this to pop up and catch it before it plays so we don't get an audio spew. We don't want overlap here. Okay, so I will see if I can get this copied and then close this so that we don't risk it coming back to haunt us. And that might be it. So here we go. Give this a go. See if that pulls it up and post. So let me know if that link works. So yeah, I thought that was absolutely amazing. The work on that image. Let's see if I can click that link myself. No, I don't want to leave the site. Cancel. Dang it, YouTube. Why do you make this so difficult sometimes? Okay, so that's that one. Is it pulling it up? I think so. And come on. That's a commercial. That's a commercial. Yeah. Load the title so I can see whether or not we got it right. There you go. Yep, so that looks like it should follow you over to the right section. But I thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, looking at that artwork, I'm like, oh, I got to go figure something. I might be able to get away with just taking my point and shoot cameras and get a reasonably good photograph enough to tweak it. I might just see if I can get just a couple of the guys down at the makerspace to take poses and do sort of like a retro science fiction cover look for them. It might be a little hard. I don't know. I'll have to think about it, but I'll see what I can do. And there are ways that I could take, like Photoshop a person's face in new ways before I even do that retro effect to them, that I could tweak it in lots of different ways. I don't know. It's just one project at a time right now. One project at a time. All right. Have a good night. I should go. All right.